Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with Black Clover. Last time around we had the victors, where we had Team Yuno versus Team Rill in the final match of the Royal Knight selection test, and Team Yuno was actually able to win. Now, you could make a comment about how they won, because Yuno and Rill were in this super crazy magic beam struggle, and we don't know who would have truly won the conflict between the two of them, because Rill had his crystal right next to him, and it broke under the pressure of all the magic, so... But, as a Dragon Ball fan, a win is a win, so I'm gonna say that counts here too. So, Yuno won, they all won, and yeah, that was the end of the Royal Knight selection test, so I'm assuming we're going to take a little break in this episode, and then we're gonna get back to plot. We gotta wait and see who's going to be selected for the Royal Knights. So yeah, that is pretty much that. Like always, the reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure. So let's go ahead and jump right into this episode of Black Clover. Here we go. Alrighty. I don't blame Asta for being in a funk, you know? Like, it makes sense, especially because... Well, I mean, it's a weird thing, because it's like, we don't know just how far he can push the black form, you know? I mean, we do, but we kinda don't, like... Because here's the thing, the form... His usage of it against Langris is not the same as his usage of it against Ladros, you know? So, it's like, you know, just comparing his fight with Langris to Yuno's fight with Rill. I clearly have not woken up yet today. Just on that, it's like, well, I get why. I get why he's down in the dumps, you know. It's like, not only were you not there to fight Yuno, but now you're not even sure if you can beat him, you know? But I mean, he needs to get back to training. He needs to be training that black form, like, way more. I mean, now that he has the ability to summon it at a moment's notice, you know? Well, kind of a moment's notice, but he knows how to activate it by using the swords. Like, it's at least a step in the right direction, you know? So it's something. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. We honestly don't know if he went all out like he did against Ladros, could he have beaten Yuno? We don't know. And you could even... I wonder if you could even just, you know, from the outside sort of speculating on, I guess, sort of power levels, is like, can Asta even reach the height that he did, you know, because the Queen of the Witches, like, you know, activated that power for him, you know? So that could be something. So, I get it. I get why he's down in the dumps, but he's just... Snap out of it, you gotta get back to work, you know? You gotta get back to work, so... Get back to work, go take a bath, you know? Thankfully, Yami is not trying to peep on the girls this time. Which, there's not much of a difference this time from last time around. Granted, I swear... Honestly, it might have just been that he wanted the boys in that bath to just go get killed, basically. He thought it would be funny if they all went and got attacked by the girls in that hot spring. So, this time around, he's like, well... Which, honestly, I guess, though, of the Black Bulls, it's like, well, here's 3 teenage girls, being Noelle, Charmy, and Gray. And then the only adult woman is Vanessa, and you honestly see enough of her... You see enough of her body anyway, so... Yeah, maybe that could be it. He doesn't actually want to peep on them. He just thought it would be funny that time. We're gonna hold that as the reasoning. But anyway, but now we get a nice story of being part of the Grey Deer, which is interesting. Again, that it's like that both both William and Yami were a part of the Grey Deer under Captain Julius Novachrono. And that's interesting. Obviously, it makes sense that the two of them would join his team, his squad specifically, because they were both helped out by him. But it's also interesting because it's like, well, I'm assuming then that the Black Bulls had not been formed yet. And maybe even Golden Dawn, too. Like, you know? Like, I could see, like, the Crimson Lions and the Silver Eagles being sort of a long-established squad. Like, both of them being long-established squads. Because they're both, you know, generally, you know, commanded by, you know, a specific royal family. For the Silver Eagles, it's a Silva. For the Crimson Lions, it's generally a Vermilion. So it's interesting that now both of them were surpassed by two squads that were only formed very recently. You know, probably, if I were to guess, in the past 10, maybe 15 years. I think 15 years is kind of pushing him. I would say maybe 10 years at least, you know? Like, they all don't, like, they don't really seem that much older, but I would say probably around 10 years. So, but yeah, but it's interesting that they both, again, I'm assuming that they both went and formed their own squad. So William formed Golden Dawn specifically and became number one, whereas Yami formed the Black Bulls and became last place until just recently. So that's a funny way of looking at it, but it makes sense, honestly. And both of them kind of, I would say, reflect each other, you know. Golden Dawn's a little tricky of, like, how does this reflect William? And I guess it's because we still honestly don't know a ton about William himself, you know? Like, what little we know is he does seem to be a good guy, you know? He obviously doesn't care about class, you know, the difference between nobility and the peasantry, because he took in someone like Yuno, who has incredible magic power, but is a peasant. It seems that William doesn't really care about that, and obviously, you know, he's also friends with Yami, who, you know, was a foreigner. You know, he's so far from the nobility, you know? So he seems like a pretty cool guy, but it's interesting to see sort of that, I don't know, I guess there's, I don't know. Maybe that's also the thing, though, is I'm trying to think of, like, you know, not only how William reflects Golden Dawn, but also how Golden Dawn reflects William, because it's like, well, I guess, honestly, we haven't seen enough of Golden Dawn. You know, there's a couple bad eggs. Alec-Dora and Langris are certainly bad eggs, maybe one worse than the other. Klaus, for a little while, he was kind of he was a lukewarm egg, you know, but he became a good egg later, you know? But that was also because, you know, he had to be, essentially he just fought with Yuno, he worked with Yuno, and there you go, you know? And then obviously Mimosa, I mean, she's a good egg, she's like the goodest egg, she's such a good girl, you know? It's like ridiculous how much of a good girl that Mimosa is, so it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm trying to find parallels between Golden Dawn and William where maybe I don't need to, because honestly, it's because Yami and the Black Bulls so perfectly reflect each other, you know? I don't know. But anyway, that was interesting. And I like, too, it's like, not only were they part of the same squad, the Grey Deers, but I love that they never really met each other, you know, because they were just sort of on different paths, you know? The Grey Deers, honestly, I don't know, it feels like Julius may have been a more hands-off sort of captain, you know? Like, I could sort of see that, like, he's not really a stifling, you know, here's your missions, you go do all your missions. Like, you know, he has some missions for some people, and, you know, for others, like Yami, he's like, well, you know, I might call every so often, you know, with something I think you should do, which would be suited to you. I keep dropping my pen. Something that would be suited to you. But otherwise, you need to go do your training. Go. I'm sure you'll do good during your training anyway. So, like, that's kind of what I get from... That's kind of what I would imagine Julius as a captain to be. Whereas with William, it's like, no, I'm going to give you specific missions in the capital to go do, So it's interesting. It's like, I was like, oh, well, they never met before. And it's like, well, that makes sense, But I also just like that. It's also interesting, too, because it's like, when we talk about the differences between, the royal, the royal squads, like the Crimson Lions and the Silver Eagles, but then you get the differences between Golden Dawn and the Black Bulls, and it's like, the Black Bulls has kind of been this, we've had this image of the Black Bulls as this is where everyone else goes, basically. It's like, when you have a very glaring flaw, but you're a very good person, you go to the Black Bulls, And a flaw, basically, that nobody else wants to deal with, Then, the Misfits. They're the island of misfit toys, basically. It's not bad. They're not bad. They're still good toys. They're a little off, but that's okay. But it's interesting because it's like, the Grey Deers kind of was that. I don't know. It's like the Grey Deers kind of, I guess just Grey Deer. Yeah. The Grey Deer was kind of that. Yes. I guess it's not deers. Also, I definitely wrote DEAR, the Grey Deer, not the Grey Deer. How many times can I say deer? It's starting to not be a word anymore. Deer. What was I saying? Something? I don't know. But yeah, it's like it's just interesting, sort of getting that dynamic. Knowing enough about Julius to sort of gauge how he was as a captain, and then seeing two of his squad members, I guess, being William and Yami, who are almost opposites, but still have very big similarities. I mean, both of them were sort of cast aside, I would suppose, Yami's still cast aside for being a foreigner, whereas, William was a illegitimate child for so long, and until the actual legitimate child died, and then he got, he got promoted, basically. But even still cast out because of the birthmark and stuff, So, but it's just interesting seeing... It's interesting seeing basically how the Grey Deer basically evolved and split apart to become Golden Dawn and the Black Bulls, So yeah, and it's also interesting because it's like Yami can clearly see a difference in his power and Williams, Like, as he's going along, he's just like, oh, geez, like, our keys are, like, in perfect sync. Like, he's doing all this. Like, it seems like he knows my moves, And it's just like, just seeing at any opportunity, just these trees that pop up. And it makes you wonder, it's like, geez, well, if they actually, like, had a fight, who would win, honestly, Because those trees pop up in an instant when you're not expecting it. And it's like, this is crazy, So... I don't know. It's ridiculous, but he definitely sees William as a rival, and I like that they continued a friendly rivalry for many years. It's like, oh, who will become a captain first? And honestly, that does sort of bring up the question: who did become a captain first? And it's interesting too because kind of at the beginning of the show when we first heard about William, it's like, well, he's kind of next in line to be Wizard King, So I don't know. It makes me wonder if we're going to see something like that. I don't know, sort of a push towards that, Because I mean, we're still, we're thinking about our Asta and Yuno, which one of them is going to be the Wizard King. It's like, well, first you got to get through William, It's like, well, first you got to get through Langris, then William, then. Then you have to wait for Julius, and then it's like, that is still my biggest question is, does the Wizard King retire, or does the Wizard King die? That's kind of my question on how the Wizard King is appointed, and mainly that's just because if it's just that, well, when the Wizard King dies, they appoint a new Wizard King, sure, that's something, but I think of that just because it's like, I would love to see a former Wizard King, just some old man who used to be the Wizard King, and he's just like, wow, I'm old, and I'm tired, I hung up my cape, And then, you know, he gets a cool moment where he actually attacks it, and it's like, this is why he's the friggin' wizard. He was the Wizard King, you know? So, I don't know, I'd still love to see a moment like that. But even still, it's like, I don't see Julius retiring anytime soon. And he's so good, you know? He's so good and so powerful. So, I don't know. But a very interesting episode. Very, very interesting, and I'm curious to see where we are going next time. But that is basically it. With all of that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of my Black Clover reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.